working with teenagers?
Oh, I like that, yes, yes. Why are we working with teenagers? I love teenagers. They've still got some energy. They're not boring. I like teenagers' energy. I mean, I'm sure there are some horrible teenagers. Yes. But very few. I have never ever, I'm not a teacher. In Britain, poets go into schools a lot. We go often into school. So I have been going into schools 20, 30 years. I have never met a child in a classroom I did not like. If the teachers say, oh, that boy, I think, let's see. And I pay attention to that boy, and he turns out to be the best poet in the class every time. I just like teenagers. You still hope for the world. Yes? You're going to change the world, aren't you? Promise? Somebody's got to do it, and those politicians are not going to do it. It's up to you. I just like teenagers. Always have.
Did you like working?
Yes, I did. No, you're perfect. I did. I did live in wartime. You mean when Britain was, and Germany were, yes, I did. But I was little, I was a baby, I didn't know about it. What I knew was that there was I mean, you know history, some history of the Second World War, yes?
Yeah.
Right. In Britain, the radio, we switched the radio was on all the time. My father was in the BBC. He was a BBC engineer in charge of Wales, outside, broadcasting that happened not in the main building, but all over the place. The radio was on all the time. I knew there was a wicked man called Hitler. And Hitler was a sort of monster. And if only we could defeat the monster, the world would be beautiful again. So I'm a little child sort of thinking it was a sort of horrible, scary fairy story on the radio. But, you know, people didn't have enough food. I did. I didn't care. We had enough food on the farm, my grandmother's farm. There were black curtains when I was in the town or in the city, black curtains, no lights to show outside, and sometimes we could hear a bomb fall. So, but sometimes we had to hide under the stairs in a cupboard in case Hitler came that way that night and dropped a bomb on us. But I was a child and managed to.
Just question. I've heard that families had to move their children from the city. Oh, I'm sorry. I've heard that families had to move their children from the cities into the country.
Yes, they moved them to Wales. It was London.
Oh,
the
right.
children. I mean, some children were sent from their families in the city of London to live in the countryside all over Britain. They were called refugees. And there were refugee children in houses close to where we lived, although we were also bombed sometimes. But London, what a terrible thing. Some children had a very happy time in the countryside. Some children were so sad and so unhappy to be away from their families. Some preferred their new families, and they'd come from very poor families, and they came to poor families, but in the countryside nothing is as bad. There is milk, there's butter, there are eggs, there are vegetables, you eat, the birds sing. So some children were very happy indeed. But I just went to my grandmother's farm, and I knew lots of refugee children, but it was a very, very sad thing to part families. Some never ever got together happily again. Some had their lives changed forever. Gone for years. 4 years away from your family? It's a long time.
Thank you.
Yes.
Why did you decide to be a writer?
When did I heard every word. When did I decide to be a writer or a poet? A writer. As soon as I saw a book, I thought, I want to make a book. As soon as my mother read me a story, I wanted to make up a story. As soon as my mother sang me a nursery rhyme, I wanted to make up nursery rhymes. And there's a very, very popular writer for children when I was a little girl called Enid Blyton. I read every single one of her books, hundreds and hundreds of books. And my mother said, take your nose out of a book and come and help me. Your nose in a book again. My nose was in a book. So when I went to school at 5, I could already read. And when they read the book around the class, I finished the book while they were still doing it. I just loved books. The only other thing I wanted to be was a vet. Now that's a vet? An animal doctor. That's because I loved animals. I wanted to make animals better. But I wasn't clever enough to be a vet. So I could just be a poet. Thank you, love.